Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back to your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And with that being said, let's just dive on in and let's start off with this tweet here from John E. Dean. He is quoting Nerd Nation Unboxes, a video from June of 2022. What do you see? I don't care that Gary Gensler taught at MIT. The man has no clue what is or isn't an investment contract, aka a security. According to him, if an asset is being promoted by someone, it transforms the asset into a security. He completely ignores the fact that US securities laws do not apply to the purchase of an asset for non-investment use cases. If you ask Gensler what the US Supreme Court held in the Foreman case, do you think he could tell you? I doubt it. More importantly, he doesn't care what the law says. The SEC has publicly admitted that it ignores the common enterprise factor of the Howey test. It's on the SEC website today. Gensler must go. And here was from June of 2022, where we see, so it looks like Gary Gensler agreed that one, the Hinman speech was not personal opinion, and two, Ether transformed what from a security to a non-security. And listen, as we really kind of look at what's going on here, we know for the longest time that the SEC has been playing games, which we will go over in this video. We're going to talk about a few things that a lot of people don't know about as well around the SEC. But first, I want to go down here to David Schwartz responding back to a tweet, actually. And the tweet was saying, this is how Stoner Katz was basically accosted by the SEC and shut down with brute force. Have you read the evidence the SEC used to bully Stoner Katz into a settlement and into destroying the cartoon that the community helped bring to life and even had voice parts in, not to mention that they had to burn all their NFTs? It was 3 solitary tweets, 2 statements, and a meme is what the SEC used as evidence of a violation to scare this lighthearted project into oblivion. And they did the same thing with many other projects as well. I mean, they utilize scare tactics as if they are like some mob around crypto. Again, this is something that's absolutely disgusting. And we see David Schwartz actually responding back saying, the net effect is that projects are being given 3 pieces of legal advice. 1, avoid anything that would give US regulators jurisdiction. 2, avoid truthful disclosure of future plans. And 3, avoid perception that you are making efforts. How does that protect investors exactly? And it doesn't, right? Like the whole idea of the SEC saying, hey, like you need to come in and register with us. And then guess what? The only company, Prometheum, that got, the green light, all of a sudden, there's a big marketing campaign around them saying, hey, look it, you can come in and register with the SEC. Go ahead, try it. And we already know numerous companies from this space and projects from this space that have tried to do so. And immediately the SEC turned around and sued them. Just for a quick payday and to, bully themselves into a payday from these, companies and projects. It's ridiculous. And beyond this, we actually see Steven Arioff responding back to David Schwartz, because we do see from Johnny Deaton, he's saying, great summary of actual legal advice in the US. I would only add 4. Under no circumstances are you to cooperate with or talk to anyone at the SEC. If they ask you for your business name or address, refer them to your attorney. If you get a subpoena, don't immediately comply. Instead, call your attorney. And here we have from Steven Arioff. Craig questions, do attorneys ever collude with an agency? If so, would it be advisable to just somehow hire the attorney at the agency? Obviously, these questions are geared at banana republics who don't have entrusted institutions like SEC Gov. And we do see, as I've said several times, much to the chagrin of many, Ethereum Joseph made a very smart move and hired Jay Clayton's law firm, SNC, to represent Consensus. Almost immediately after Clayton was appointed SEC chair, he also hired another individual as his deputy GC and director of Brooklyn Project, which was working with the SEC, where Clayton was going to be chair, along with hiring other SNC attorneys at Consensus. It was a brilliant strategic move because it would force Clayton to recuse himself from voting regarding a potential enforcement action against Ethereum and Consensus, thus eliminating one potential yes vote. Clayton swore to Elizabeth Warren at his confirmation hearing that he would recuse himself instead of voting no related to an enforcement action against one of SNC's clients. Of course, the chairman dictates policy and controls the purse strings, so one could argue Hiram Clayton's firm guaranteed no enforcement action would be coming. Instead, however, Clayton voted for an enforcement action against his law firm's client's #1 competition. SNC brokered the Quorum/JPM coin deal with consensus. Many of us believe voting for an enforcement action against your law firm's client's biggest competition is the functional equivalent of voting no regarding an enforcement action against your client. Many of us believe Clayton violated 18 USC 208 because even the appearance of impropriety constitutes a violation. Also, during Hinman's deposition, it was clear that Clayton asked Hinman to email Lubin, which he did. Clayton even discussed with Hinman how the meetings were going between Hinman and Lubin/Vitalik/consensus. I wonder how many times the chair asked the director of cooperation and finance how meetings are going, considering there are hundreds of meetings taking place. And isn't it a coincidence that Clayton was the only commissioner to get a copy of the speech draft and provide input before it was given? Just like the coincidence that Clayton took a job with One River after immediately leaving the SEC, which bet $1 billion only on Bitcoin and Ethereum, the two tokens given clarity in the very speech that Clayton gave input in. And of course, here you guys have the players here. There's only two examples in terms of crypto assets designed for inter or intra-bank payments and settlements. And guess what? It's JPM Coin and XRP. Again, we already know that all of this was happening behind the scenes. We know that now everything has been confirmed, but beyond this, we continue to see the big statements being made. And we've connected the dots quite a bit. We already know that the SEC is in cahoots with all of these congressional members that are constantly saying, hey, Gary Gensler is this, Gary Gensler is that. For an example, here we have Stephen Arioff. Why is Patrick McHenry all bent out of shape that Gary Gensler won't give documents about FTX or SBF? It's not like he was somehow involved or SEC Gov used FTX's implosion to get political and public backing to crush crypto. It's likely just a printer issue. And here we have a video from Patrick McHenry. It's about 4 minutes long. I'm not going to play it. But we do see Gary Gensler continues his blatant disregard for Congress in pursuit of a radical agenda that threatens the integrity of our financial markets, protection of investors, and our economic competitiveness. Our patience is wearing thin. Now listen, talk is cheap. Go back 6 months ago when we had the another meeting just like this where they scolded, Gary Gensler and talked down on Gary Gensler and the SEC. And guess what? Nothing came from that. And it's just the same thing here. And you know what's funny about this? Here we have from Cowboy Crypto 313. It's not like he hadn't had plenty of meetings with Gensler since March of 2023. Latest calendar month shown in July. And look at this. Like, this is all of the meetings with Patrick McHenry. This is March 29th of this year, followed by June 6th of this year, followed by June of this year. And then, of course, just recently, July of this year. So what's really going on here, right? Is this all just one big show? Because I've said it many times, and I've said it ever since it happened, that FTX, and I would argue even Luna, were an inside job. A lot of what we see around the space has been planted seeds by the regulators to make an example and utilize that example to their benefit. As a matter of fact, Dave Weissberger responded back to a video. This is talking more so from 60 Minutes with Sam Bankman-Fried being talked about and discussed, which everyone knows about this video now. It's basically gone viral because they're talking up Sam as if he's like some incredible individual. It's comical. But we do see from Dave, he's saying, spoiler alert, SBF doing good, in quotes, was a front to cloak the big con, stealing from clients to donate millions to politicians while brand building at epic scale. The goal was the illusion of safety and scale to perpetuate the con and create regulatory barriers to competition. And it's exactly what has been happening. We already know, hours after FTX imploded and hours after Luna, Elizabeth Warren and her, pals at the SEC were out talking about how we need regulations. We need stricter regulations. We need this. We need that. It's so comical at this point. Like, they don't even try to hide it at this point. And the number one thing that I want you all to realize when we talk about these things is, we need accountability for this. I'm hoping that eventually we will start to see major investigations, but I fear that the SEC and a lot of these organizations and a lot of these people that were tied to a lot of these big events, they're too big on the food on the food scale, to really kind of go after. And I always say this, like, the elites will never be targeted. So as we really kind of look at, the ETHgate scenario with Steven Arioff and what's been happening and what's been being pushed, I really kind of target that. I really kind of, talk about it heavily because, it needs to be spotlighted. These things, these problems need to be spotlighted because the retail sector has been hurt countless times from the actions of an agency that's overall goal is apparently to protect investors. Yet guess what? We don't see none of that. I mean, hell, Gary Gensler, the biggest clown in the room, in his bio on Twitter says, committed to investor protection, fair markets, and capital formation. Let me ask you all, after seeing Gary Gensler and the SEC's actions in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe even go back 4 years, 5 years, has the SEC ever been fair? Have they ever protected you or me? Guess what? I guarantee you the answer is always going to be no. Because they haven't. They cost $15 billion right out of the door on the XRP lawsuit. Beyond this, we already know that there's been an investigation that was called into action around Gary Gensler and his role in the FTX collapse. Because even then, Richie Torres, which I've actually liked what Richie Torres has been talking about and discussing around a lot of these major meetings, but he actually accused Gensler of being singularly responsible for failing to prevent FTX's demise simply because he was meeting with, Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX multiple times before the implosion happened. But also, they want to know, did Gary Gensler get paid off? Because listen, we know that FTX essentially bought its way to become the most regulated crypto exchange. And a lot of people were questioning, like, how is FTX getting all these major meetings with the SEC, yet a lot of these other companies and a lot of these other projects were getting turned down left, right, all the time? Because, again, the SEC chooses who they want to meet with. But I guarantee you, if you show them some money, you might be able to get in faster. And I think that that's exactly what happened with FTX. I think FTX was a planted seed by the regulators just to be utilized as an example. And listen, how do you think these regulators have their net worths, right? Like, 41 million to 119 million, being a professor at MIT and being an ex-banker. I mean, get out of here. And again, like, a lot of his money apparently was accounted to from investment income. Just like all the other, politicians' investment income as well, which is in the tens of millions of dollars. Oh, what about Elizabeth Warren as well? Because she was the one pushing her bipartisan bill to regulate crypto firms after FTX collapse. She also pushed a bill to essentially kill DeFi and kill the entire crypto industry. She's extremely anti-crypto. Almost everyone that is supporting her bills are Democrats. Not to, point the finger. I don't really care about, politics, but I'm just saying, like, most of the people that were saying, hey, let's push this bill. Guess what? When you look at their background, they're getting massive donations from the big banks. They're, pro banks. They're pro traditional players. Like, what is going on here? And beyond this, we also know that Elizabeth Warren had close ties to SBF. Again, I wonder if she got paid off because, again, we know that she had millions of dollars in her campaign fund as well. For example, look at this. We know that by the end of 2022, she had more than $2.3 million in her campaign account. Absolutely insane. She earns a minimum annual salary of $174,000 as a senator, right? However, they have a combined net worth, her and her husband, of roughly $12 million, according to a 2019 estimate. Imagine what it is today. So I question, how is she worth this much money? How are 99% of these politicians and these regulators worth this amount of money? Because I honestly, I can't come to any conclusion rather than saying, hey, I think that they're bought and paid for. Because I think the entire system is bought and paid for. I mean, Jamie Dimon essentially snaps his fingers and regulators are doing his dirty work. And this is the #1 bank in the US and globally. So think about that. It's all corrupt. This is ridiculous. And you know what? As we really kind of look at things, I do think that we need to put a spotlight on things happening right now around the SEC, because it's truly sickening to see a lot of these projects get swallowed up by enforcement actions by the SEC, which we already know are all nonsense anyways. And I always say, because I question if anything is even going to come from this, because these are people that are high up on the food chain. And when you really kind of look at them and their backgrounds and their connections, they're all connected to some extremely elite individuals. And I've always said this, because Utility Theory and many other individuals from the community, they put together a mind map of all the corruption and all of the connections. And honestly, if you looked at some of those connections, it would make you sick, because it just shows you how deep in the rabbit hole this entire ETH-gate and all of the corruption really kind of goes. It's insane. But with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Peace out.